Okay. Hi guys. Welcome to the April version of Every Second Matters. I'm Night Strike. I'm filling in for G-Webs this month. He's at the world's largest gun show right now, so he cannot make it. He might jump in later on if he gets good internet. Who knows? He has been made aware that we are doing the we are doing the Every Second Matters April chat. So I didn't
And
just
where
hijack
is,
it.
excuse me just for a moment, and where is the world's largest gun show for those who may not know?
I believe it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is it not?
That's right, it's at the State Fairgrounds.
At the state fairgrounds. So, you know, mark your calendars, kids. All right. Tonight, I've got with me for Every Second Matters, I've got Jess Dano. What's up, Dano?
I'm just here, but by the minute.
By the minute. Well, you mark that in your books, too. And I've got Sean from Florida Carry with us.
Hey, good to be here, and happy second, everyone.
Yes, happy second, everyone. So we're going to go over a bunch of news articles that have come up in the past couple days that concern the Second Amendment. You know, in the spirit of Every Second Matters, to let you guys know what's going on in certain states around the country, and maybe even in your neck of the woods, depending on where you are. Uh, I'm not going to go over everything, but I'm going over at least 5 or 6 articles. Okay, so if you want to know what those articles are, I can totally give you the links if you want. But that's what we're going over. The article we're going to go over first is you guys have heard about Gun TV, right?
I just heard about it before this chat.
And Bob's here. Good, Bob.
Yep.
Saving us.
But then again, I don't have cable TV, so.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the cool thing. I went and looked on their website. You can watch it live off of their website.
No, that's cool.
Bob, you there? Mute Bob.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, he's lackey. All right. So Gun TV, they are live now. Go to guntv.tv. Let me see if I can load up their website so people can, check it out. But just trying to keep everybody informed for the second.
That better now?
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting concept. The home shopping network for guns. It's definitely going to give the Bloomberg its absolute fits.
So here's their website.
Not only can you, quote unquote, buy a gun off the internet, which we all, of course, know that's a lie. Now they're going to say you can just mail order a gun on TV.
Which you can't. Which, as we all know, you can't mail order. You can buy it from. It's probably you can buy it from them through their FFL, and they will send their FFL will send your gun that you bought off of their program to your FFL, and then you're gonna have to go and fill out your 4473 in order to get that gun. You're
Right.
still gonna have to go through a background
check. They're gonna look you eye to eye and say, and really subjectively say, is this someone? That dealer is going to say, is this someone I want having a gun? Just like any responsible dealer does.
Exactly.
And so, don't be surprised that they start railing about, oh my God, it's the home shopping network for guns, and you can just see a gun on TV and call and have it shipped to your house. And of course, we all know that's an absolute lie.
That's not what it is. But let me continue, please. As I said, you can go to their website. They're in a couple cities right now. I'm trying to go not too fast so people can see this, but they're all over. Unfortunately, they aren't in South Carolina, from what I can tell, so I can't watch it. So I'll have to watch it off of their website, which you go to their website, guntv.tv, and you click there at the top right here, watch now, and it loads up live video. See that? I don't know if it's showing. Is it transmitting?
Oh yeah, looks good.
You know.
I
There
mean,
you
I
go.
can't hear the audio, but I can see the video.
See, look what they're doing. They're field stripping a gun, and they're selling the gun, but they're field stripping it so people can see all the parts. Okay, that's what we want from from Gun TV.
It's the Taurus 709. It slices, it dices, it juliennes.
You know, I don't know how it will work out in the long run, but I gotta say, on the surface, it seems pretty darn cool.
And
I still find it amazing that you guys can't just buy a gun and get it shipped to your home and stuff. I mean, I can in Canada.
But wait, there's more. It also comes with not one but two magazines.
right, all right. I'm going to turn this off, but I just wanted to show everyone that you can watch it on their website without having to have cable or whatnot, and that's what I'm going to have to do.
And if I remember correctly, it's sponsored, or it's on the Self Responsibility Network.
I believe so. It's on a bunch of different networks on other channels, but go to their website, guntv.tv, for more information. We're going to get back to other things that are on the agenda for tonight. So, what was the next thing we were going to talk about? Let me load it up here now. The latest status of pending national right to carry legislation. We were talking about that earlier with Sean. Basically, these are the bills for, what was this? I'm going over this as we're going through it. So, a bunch. There's a couple bills. There's there's S498.
Yeah, there's one Senate bill and 3 House resolutions.
Yes, there's one Senate bill and 3 House. 3 House resolutions, and you guys know more about these? I'm not too sure on what each one of them does. Do you guys know anything about them?
There's a number of bills pending. The perennial bill has been national right to carry reciprocity. Keeps coming back, and I forget which number it is. Unfortunately, both the Republicans and the Democrats really don't have the political will to stand by the Second Amendment, say that it means what it says, and really stand up for the right to bear arms. There are people that file bills knowing full well that they have no chance of passing them. And unfortunately, the gun-owning public is being pandered to a lot when it comes to filing some of these bills. And it's a bit sickening.
Well, maybe they'll have more.
Right now, under the current president, none of them have any chances of passing because there's not enough to override a veto. And we all know that the current president would veto any of them.
Well, maybe if we get a Republican, or I'm gonna be really, really optimistic. Hopelessly optimistic, and say maybe we might even get a libertarian president instead of Hillary. And, everything will be fine, and maybe they will be able to push it through. But, in all likeliness, let's not try and be negative, but we know what's going to happen is what's going to happen, and that's the end of it. But there are more than a couple bills. I will list them off, so if anyone wants to go look them up, they will look them up. The first one is S498. I think that might be the main one. Then there's HR 923. Well, that's one of the House Representative ones. There's HR 986 and HR 402. So go check those up, and you'll be able to see the status on them and whatnot. But I hope that they'll get passed, and things might get better. But I'm not holding my breath. But I am trying to be optimistic, saying things are getting better.
Something that Sean mentioned, and I just want to bring up another example of the same sort of thing of pandering to the, to our side of the aisle, is this past fall there was I believe it was a congressman from Kentucky put forward a resolution to remove all gun-free zones, as we know they are all victim zones. But we know that even if it passed, which it won't, there's no way this past fall that the current president is going to sign it. And there's not enough.
Even if you don't really believe in the right to bear arms, this year is a very good year for people that don't really believe in the right to bear arms to say, oh, well, look, I supported the right to bear arms, and try and increase their NRA ratings, because they know very well that no matter what they put up, this pro-gun is not going to be signed into law.
Yeah, absolutely, and unfortunately, here in South Carolina, the permitless carry thing got dropped because in the South Carolina Senate, we don't have Republicans or Democrats. We just have, for lack of a better word, we have rhinos and what's the word for a Democrat that doesn't really vote Democrat but doesn't vote
Blue dog.
Republican?
A dino.
Yeah, we've got.
Now the Blue Dogs are a little bit different, and I did send them the link. We've got Eric Friday. He's Florida Carry's lead attorney on here, so he can speak on legal matters much better than I can, apparently, because he went to school for it.
Well, we're trying to stick with layman's terms so we don't bore anyone listening, and so they can get the gist of it without even listening to the beginning of the conversation.
He speaks layman.
Okay.
That's why he's my attorney, because he can actually talk to me.
Now, he's not on the clock, is he?
Oh, I hope not.
All right, but we'll get to that part. But
I'm hoping this is part of his pro bono hours.
Okay. Well, good luck on that one. But hi, Eric.
Hi.
All right. Next topic. Right now, I don't know if any of you have heard, but apparently the governor of Iowa has just signed the bill legalizing suppressors in Iowa. This is big news for hunters, I guess. I guess they're going to allow hunters to use them, and civilians to be able to go and buy suppressors in the state of Iowa. So this is big news for Iowa. So if you live in Iowa, let us know what you think. But if you're not, if you have friends or family that live in Iowa, let them know, because now they can go out and buy a suppressor if they want.
Yeah, that's a very awesome thing. I mean, look, if you've ever been in a deer blind or a duck blind or anywhere else and fired a gun, you know that, well, you just can't hear for about the next 20 minutes unless you've got a can.
Or had some jackwagon shoot right next to you inside of a feed trough.
I was not that jackwagon, but I did witness it.
Oh, Sean, don't lie. We know it was you.
No, it was NASCAR.
Oh, boy. All right. But that is some news that I wanted to get out there so people know that, your rights are getting restored in Iowa. Slowly but surely. All right. Next topic.
And remember, Iowa was only a recent addition to the shall-issue states. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago that Iowa was a no-issue state. So, kudos to them for coming along, and it looks like they're really starting to embrace the right to bear arms, and couldn't be happier for our brothers up there at Buckeye Firearms, and they're really doing a bang-up job.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about was you heard about the story about the guy who's had his gun basically impounded because it was used in a murder for like 20 years? You've heard about that guy, right?
What state?
I have not. I could use the background on this.
Okay, a gun owner whose stolen revolver was used in the conspiracy of a New Hampshire teacher, Pamela Smart, to kill her husband in 1990, is finally getting his gun back. Okay, he's waited 26 years to get this gun back. Okay, the murder trial in which prosecutors painted Smart as convincing a 15-year-old lover to go and kill her husband with the help of 3 other teens. I'm not going to name their names because I don't want to get into that, but it drew a lot of media attention, I guess, in the day and triggered numerous books and films. I'm going off of this article here. But,
yeah, you hadn't said the name earlier. I remember the case very well, having, adulted during that time barely.
It was 1990, so long time ago in a country.
Not for all of us.
In a country not far away.
Yesterday.
But different times, definitely. The owner is getting his is getting his .38 Charter Arms snub-nose revolver back because I'm skimming through these, so please bear with me.
I really had no idea that there was a gun component even to that case.
A judge ruled on it that he is entitled to get the return of his gun, holster, and ammunition because the trial's over. They're all convicted. Technically it's a closed case.
Well, was it number one? Was it a capital case in terms of, and capital does not just mean death penalty. Capital can also include life without the possibility of parole.
Okay. Remind him which case this was. Eric, you'll recognize it when he says it.
I don't know. It's the one with the owner. I'll say the owner, but only because he deserves to get his gun back. Okay. It's Vance Latimer Jr. Vance Latimer Jr. Jr. So I'll throw it in the side chat so you guys can see it because I'm probably horrible on pronunciation.
This is a bit of a famous case, Eric.
All right. If you throw it in the side chat, I'll pull it up real quick and see
that one. That's the owner. That's the owner. He's getting his gun back.
Do you have a link to the actual article?
It's on the side chat there. It's the third one down, I believe. For those that did get it, if you didn't repost it in the side chat for us.
Okay.
I got a name, but I don't have a link yet.
All right. Let's see.
No, just
fourth one.
Google the name, man.
I'm doing it.
There's the link to them talking about.
Okay.
Oh no, that was the April Fools. I wanted to get in on that, but I just ruined it, so we're not going to go over that one. Oh well. No, there it is.
All right, so we're docking your pay, Night Strike, right?
I'm not even getting paid, so that second one I just posted. There you go. I'm not even getting paid.
I know.
I'm doing this.
It was his guy's son that took the revolver.
So there it is. I don't know the details. They probably linked to details. So.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that in the article they don't cite the case.
Well,
Eric, it's the Pamela Smart case.
No, I'm reading.
They did have a 13-page thing, so I'll just throw that up in their side chat too.
Look, if you go and look at the details in this case, though, I mean
it's ridiculous.
An appeal was just denied in 2002. Now you start looking at parole hearings in 2005. Film based on it in 2005.
Right, but what evidentiary value does the firearm have in 2005?
Okay, I will tell you why. I am familiar with a case that occurred in the 80s in Alabama It was actually a death penalty case, and Sean, you and I have discussed this case extensively. It was one of the first that I'm aware of. One of the first active shooter on a college campus situation occurred at junior college in Alabama, and only in the last, I want to say 5 years or so, a challenge was brought as to the jury selection process, and all of a sudden the guy's death sentence was commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So a death sentence was commuted some 25, 30 years later, 40 years later or something, because of a issue with how the jury was selected.
Right, but was there evidence held for 25, 30 years?
Well, what would have happened had, for example, the jury, or excuse me, had the court said not only is the death penalty invalid, but because of the jury selection, the entire trial's invalid, we got to retry the case. Now, if the evidence is missing, what happens?
Oh, okay, so if you're convicted of doing something bad, everything connected to that can be impounded. So what if you're at my house? Can my house be impounded? And I know I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but what are the limits to impounding valuable personal property for the purposes of someone was convicted with something to do with that property?
When we're talking about the property of the accused, I would tell you there are no limits at all. Obviously, when we start talking about the property of a third party that was stolen, I would say that a different measure applies. But property rights virtually never, I cannot think of any circumstance under which your property rights are superior to the state's right to prosecute, obtain, and continue to defend a conviction that they obtain.
Wow.
Now,
That's a scary thought, considering convictions can go on for 30, 40 years sometimes.
You say that.
Yeah, I mean, appeals can go on for 30 years sometimes.
Well, only in a very limited circumstance. Only in the case of a capital felony, generally, can the appeals go on that long. I mean, if we're talking about
unfortunately, like a stolen gun, sometimes appeals surrounding what happens with a stolen gun can be a capital felony.
Absolutely, and if it's a capital felony, I would tell you you're at the mercy of the system at that point. I mean, that's probably one of the worst, other than the personal guilt aspect. The worst penalty you can suffer as a gun owner is to have your gun stolen and used in a capital felony.
What I find is ironic is, if you compare the gun as evidence, and then obviously any crime scene is by in its nature evidence. Imagine if they held the crime scene as long as they hold other material evidence. So, we can't change anything at the scene of the crime because there's an ongoing legal issues.
Can you do it real quick?
That will be going for decades.
It's clean up there.
Right. I mean, the idea that there was a capital felony in my house, and now I can never sell my house.
Right.
I can never even occupy my house because I might be tainting the crime scene.
No.
As opposed, and yes, I know I'm drawing a parallel between a gun, which is just a piece of minimal property. It doesn't cost more than a couple $1,000s. Even the most expensive gun doesn't cost more than $15,000.
But their property rights are determined by their values.
Guys,
hold on.
Draw a distinct. Sean, instead of going quite so ridiculous, try and draw a distinction between what we're talking about with another piece of personal property, not a piece of real property. Remember, real and personal are very different treatments within the law. And so let's talk about personal property. Let's talk about a car. Let's talk about something else that is a tangible.
Okay. Let's talk about my $400,000 Rolex versus my $400 gun.
Tough.
Is there, under the eyes of the law, is there any difference?
Not if there's some kind of touch DNA on that $400,000 Rolex.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, since you're a lawyer and whatnot. Isn't the government refusing to return property that may have been used in a crime? You know, even if you weren't part of that crime and it was stolen from you, them not returning that property because of whatever reason, isn't that violating their Fifth Amendment rights because under seizure?
No.
Well, they're taking away, and you're not allowed to use it.
Yeah, is it not a taking for those number of years at least, if not permanent?
It is a taking.
I think it'd be an interesting case under takings clause for.
It would be a fascinating case under takings clause. Okay, it would be a fascinating case.
All right, Eric, would you quickly explain the takings clause?
Takings clause says that no property may be taken for public use without just compensation, also known as eminent domain. We're going to seize your property because we want to build a road here. Well, that is one of the oldest forms of government taking there is. We're going to take your land to build a road. You don't have a choice about whether it's taken or not, but in America, the government has to give you just compensation for that land.
So say they want to take my firearm for the prosecution of someone else. Fine.
Now it's
I bring it. Fine. Why don't I get a takings? I mean, they took my gun. It has monetary value. It depreciates over time.
Well, I guess you let it get stolen, should you?
Well, of course not. But whoever wants their stuff stolen. But now the police have it. They take it. They take it and hold it for 26 years, as in this case. Am I not entitled to, since they have been in possession of it the whole time, the state, the depreciation at least over that time?
Well, I would say that I'm not aware of any case on this issue, but if this gentleman had come to me, let's say, 2 years after it was taken and while the legal process was still going on, I think I would have gone ahead and made a motion that the state had taken my property and that I was ready to be compensated for it now and not ever expect to get it back. Because what's the value of the property? The value of the property is how much does that gun cost? Now, generally, in eminent domain,
right. Well, and this is why I got to the $400 gun versus the $400,000 H&R or Holland and Holland rifle. The value of the property matters.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was, because I've read a lot of the amendments and I've read the Bill of Rights several times. I had to study it in school, and every time I hear these cases where people's guns have been taken away from them for like 10, 20, they're 30 years, I think that's a violation of one of those amendments in the Bill of Rights.
Not everything is black letter law either.
No, but the thing is, I would expect the government to follow the Bill of Rights just as, every state. But I guess that doesn't happen. So
the government and the states follows the Bill of Rights when they are forced to. And that's why we have a third branch of government. That's why we have a judiciary that is supposed to be their job.
Let's hear what Eric has to say.
The final clause of the Fifth Amendment, since you brought up the Constitution, the final clause of the Fifth Amendment, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So here's the problem. You got to argue that this private property, whether we're talking about this $400 gun or $400,000 Rolex, has this private property been taken for public use? Well, generally public use means to be used for the benefit of the public. Well, they're not using it for the benefit of the public. They're using it to
But they are. That's what the judicial system is the benefit of the public.
Now that would be an argument to be made, yes, but that is not the traditional understanding of for the use of the public under that amendment.
I mean, if you look at some of the states, many of the states are the people of this state versus this person, not the state versus this person. The people of this state versus this person.
I understand, but
that sounds like a clear public use, isn't it?
it's an interpretation that I've never heard of being used. That doesn't mean it hadn't been, because gosh knows I don't know every case out there. But this is a unique argument, guys. The argument makes sense to me. I like the argument. I think there's a colorable argument to be made here, but it's not an argument I've ever heard made to be won or lost. But I know what the defense would be. The state's defense would be, and look, in the case of a $400 gun, the state might decide this ain't worth fighting. Let's give the guy $400. We start talking about $400,000 Rolexes. Well, maybe a different attitude comes to mind. But
yeah, well, that's why I brought it up. Since you're a lawyer, I thought I wanted to hear your take on this, because I every time I hear this, I figure, since I've gone over the Bill of Rights, that at some point, there needs to be a line drawn from, how long they're able to keep your stuff.
Well, like I said, this is kind of an outside the box scenario. I mean, this is not a common.
I know. I just thought we should talk about it, because it is pertaining to the Second Amendment on the fact that it's also violating other amendments as well.
If I'm dealing with the average firearm, if this guy had come to me, let's say this guy had come to me the month after the guy got arrested and said, "That's my gun. It's being held as evidence. I want it back." My initial attitude probably would have been, I'm not going to make an issue with this for you. You're wasting your time to make an issue with this until the conclusion of the original trial. And understand, that could take 5 years right there.
Right, but your average gun's worth $400.
I would tell you, I don't care what the property is. I don't care what it's worth. I don't care if we're talking about the $400,000 Rolex. I, as a lawyer, would tell you, you are probably wasting your time until the original trial is concluded. Okay? Once the original trial is concluded, now I think you've got an argument. I want my property back. And the judge says, sorry, there's appeals outstanding. This thing could go on for God knows how long. Okay, well, now you're holding it for public purposes, because you're holding it to reinforce your conviction, not to obtain a conviction. It's no longer being held as the property involved in a crime. It's now being held because we might have to come back and redo this. And I think I can see the courts making a distinction there. Sean and I often talk about what is intellectually honest versus what are the courts likely to buy. I think this is a place where the court's likely to make a distinction between, well, if we were perfectly intellectually honest, well, yeah, it's taking from minute one.
Right.
But practically, I don't see the courts ever enforcing during the initial trial, we're going to require this. We're going to require you to give this property up. Or we're going to require the government to give you compensation for giving this property up.
All right. Well, I just wanted to broach that topic. Granted, it's more of a topic that we should probably talk about in the lobby chat. But since I have you here, I wanted to hear your take on it.
It's a fascinating topic. I'm now curious to know if anything's ever been done with it.
Well, I've heard the case where it had happened to people regarding land.
Well, no, you're talking about land and eminent domain. That's a whole other set of circumstances.
But it's still property.
That's what he was getting to with the whole, tangible personal property versus real property. Real property being land.
Real property. Here's the deal. Let me explain one of the important distinctions. I don't know if you've ever heard the term specific performance. If a gun is taken from you, monetary damages are almost always a valid compensation for a firearm or for a car, because cars and firearms and any other personal property is what they call fungible goods. One gun is just like another gun of the same type, but all real estate is always presumed to be unique. And when you're dealing with unique property, you have a right to specific informant. So, as an example, I say, I want to buy that Glock from you. And you say, I'm going to sell you this Glock. We have a contract. The contract is you're going to sell me your Glock for $500. You don't sell me the Glock, and you know what? Glocks are only $600, but I was going to get yours for $5. Well, you may owe me $600 for not selling it to me, because that's what it's going to take for me to go get the same Glock somewhere else, because that's a $600 Glock, and you were willing to part with it for $5, and we had a contract for $5, and the only one I can go get otherwise is for $6, so you're going to owe me $600 because it's a fungible good. One Glock's another Glock. But when we're dealing with real property is different from personal property in that every piece is presumed to be unique. So instead of you saying, well, heck, I'm just going to give you $600 to replace the Glock I was going to sell you for $5 so you can go get another Glock for $6, no. You're going to have to sell me that particular piece of land, and I can enforce that contract as to that piece of land rather than for the dollar value that we were dealing with.
Okay.
So if I have a gun, say I have a gun that Hitler shot himself with, now I'm talking about something this this non-fungible, right? Eric, your mic's not on.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry. Now you're talking about a non-fungible item that is unique and you can show its unique nature. But real property is each piece of real property is presumed to be unique. Each piece of personal property is presumed to be fungible and not unique.
So if I have a piece of personal property that has some history behind it, I have to make a showing that it is non-fungible, right?
Correct. That is your burden, not the other guy's burden.
Okay, we're going to move on. We could go all night on this, and I don't want to bore anyone. So,
yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I said we wouldn't get too into the weeds, and then I brought in the lawyer.
You brought in the lawyer. Shame on you.
My night strike. We've only been going for 10 minutes.
Bad, Sean. Bad, Sean.
I know. But we dropped viewers from 10 to like 8, so I think we're boring them.
About every second matters. We're not here to entertain the masses.
Right. Well, we are and we aren't. Anyways.
No, we're not.
Dano, shut up.
Oh, I was going to say that.
No. Oh, he ran off. All right.
You kicked him. You rotten.
I didn't kick him. He just ran off.
So let's get back to Every Second Matters.
Yeah, we're getting back to Every Second Matters because we are going off topic. We got a little off topic there, and I apologize for that. I didn't want us to get off topic too much, but when you're dealing with lawyers, be prepared. When you're dealing with lawyers, be prepared. All right, Sean, tell me what's going on with Florida dropping CCW costs and anything else going on.
Well, you see the Bloomberg folks, they're rattling their sabers and saying, "Look, we beat Florida Carry and we beat the NRA and we beat the pro-gun people in Florida, and they didn't get anything through on their agenda." And thing is, we had a very successful year. We didn't get through all the bills we wanted, obviously, but we got through a very important bill that took care of the issue of aggravated assault here, and the one you're alluding to is we reduced the cost of getting a concealed carry license. And this is going to save the law-abiding gun owners of Florida millions of dollars per year. It's only a $10 per person drop, but $10 per person is a huge deal. That's a lot of money. Ideally, we'd like to have it cost $0, but we take what we can get, and we were able to get a $10 per license and $10 per renewal reduction in fee. So, good victory for us.
Awesome. Didn't you say something else was going on in Florida?
Well, we just had all the briefs put in, and there might be another brief coming on this case, but we have the Norman open carry case that Eric will be arguing before the Florida Supreme Court on June 8th, right, Eric?
Yep.
And this case seeks to invalidate Florida, just like South Carolina, which I think you're from their strike.
I live there. I'm not from there.
Well, you live there. Florida is one of only 5 states that bans open carry outright. And even in South Carolina, where they ban the open carry of handguns, they don't ban the open carry of long guns. Florida is one of only 4 states that has really almost complete bans, and even California has some exceptions. So really, we're one of only 3 states that has a total ban on open carry, and we are challenging that on constitutional grounds under both the Florida and U.S. constitutions, and believe that we're going to win at the Florida Supreme Court. Eric, it's all on you, man.
Eric, I have the greatest respect for you as a lawyer, and that's why I asked you that question. Some of the crowd or listening thought that I didn't respect you, and I do respect you. It's just, you guys tend to go into more detail than people want sometimes.
Oh, no. Look, you were never going to make me feel bad by giving me a hard time, and it's probably a little too dark. Let's see if I can shine a little light on it.
I see it, the Three Stooges.
There's the law firm that I am jealous and wish to join, and that is the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. The only other firm I wish to be a part of is it's a family law divorce firm called Ditcher, Quick, and Hyde.
All right.
So, no, giving lawyers a hard time is kind of an accepted tradition in America. It's quite all right, and I accept it and enjoy it for what it is.
Eric, for those who don't know, give them the 30-second on who Dale Norman is and what happened to him and where we're going.
Dale Norman at the time was a 22-year-old young man who had just gotten his concealed carry license. In other words, his government privilege had been received that day to allow himself to carry a firearm in the public streets of Florida. He walked out of his house. He was wearing clothing that was completely inappropriate and not the best clothing that should be worn for concealed carry. And
now, by completely inappropriate, he means he was wearing shorts and a T-shirt.
He was wearing shorts without a belt and a T-shirt that was tighter than that was tight enough that would be expected by a person who was informed and knowledgeable would ride up over the gun. But Mr. Norman had no way to know that. It's a matter of what somebody who has experience carrying a gun would know, but a novice or a new person at it would not necessarily know.
And he just received his concealed carry license the same day he was arrested for this.
So Mr. Norman was walking down the street, and this is what was most appalling to me. We have dash cam video from one of the officers who stopped him. In response to a 911 call that reported nothing other than a person walking down the street with a firearm that they could see. So no threatening action, no threats of violence, no anything else. These 2 police cars coming from opposite directions drove up onto a public sidewalk and nearly hit a pedestrian, Mr. Norman, before officers jumped out, drew their guns, and proned him out on the ground for what in Florida is a second-degree misdemeanor, even if you don't have a concealed carry license. I cannot think of another second-degree misdemeanor that any officer would ever prone somebody out at gunpoint for. And Mr. Norman was allowed to have a gun where he had one. He was allowed to be where he was. He wasn't threatening anybody. He wasn't doing anything to anybody. Oh, my gosh, we can see his gun.
So basically, it was printing, right?
No, the shark rode up. It was at the time that he was stopped, the gun was clearly visible on his hip.
And part of this, I firmly believe, was oh my God, there's a black man with a gun.
He was walking.
Oh man, let's not go there.
No, I'm sorry. I will tell you. I will be happy to discuss with anybody that wants to discuss it what the realities of our criminal justice system are, and I will tell you that Mr. Norman and another case I am handling are both cases of having a visible firearm while black, and I will tell you that we do know of one case where a white gentleman had a very similar experience, but as a general rule, I will tell you that a white person with a firearm is treated very differently by the court system than a black person with a firearm.
I have been a white man with a gun when the police showed up, and it was you got a license for that? Yep, your gun's showing. My bad. Done. That was not the opportunity afforded Mr. Norman. Just Google him. Yeah. He had a felony stop at gunpoint.
For a second
versus me when someone walked up and said, when an officer walked up and said, "Hey, your gun's showing." Oh, my bad. Sorry. Got a license? Yep. Need to see it? Nope.
I will tell you as a person who practices criminal defense law in the state of Florida, I will tell you that a lot of it depends on the neighborhood in which it occurs, as well as the skin color of the individual that we are dealing with. But I will tell you that when it occurs in a bad neighborhood with a black person is much different than when it occurs with a white person in a better neighborhood.
And he had the license, and he had he went through background check and everything, and they decided to treat him like every other type individual that does it, right?
Yes. And now obviously the officers did not know that. When they did the felony stop, proned him out at gunpoint, they did not know that. But let me give you an example here. It is absolutely within Florida law and perfectly normal that a person who is charged with a non-violent second-degree misdemeanor, whether we're talking less than 15 grams of weed or letting your gun show or driving on a suspended license, all of these are second-degree misdemeanors and criminal offenses. It is very common that on a second-degree misdemeanor, you receive what is called a notice to appear. So even if the officer initially reacts badly, once they realize what's really going on, which is not a big deal, they give you what is the criminal equivalent of a traffic ticket that tells you to show up in court on a certain day and let the judge hear what happened.
Right.
That's not what they did with either of the cases that I'm dealing with. What they did in these cases is they took somebody who had done nothing wrong except arguably commit a second-degree misdemeanor that was a accidental misdemeanor at best, put them in cuffs after a felony stop, and then took them to spend the night in jail and post bond before they got out.
Charlie.
What's your take on this, Bob?
I'm shocked, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that kind of shit happens, right? It happens with us up in Canada. If you're native, you get treated differently than if you're white. But I think it's horrendous that this guy can have the license and everything, and then once the cop sees all that.
I'll do you one better, Bob. I'll do you one better. We had down in Sean's neck of the wood a few years ago, a young man, again black, with a concealed carry license, with a concealed carry firearm in his vehicle, and concealed, which is perfectly legal, was sitting outside a restaurant.
You do not need a concealed carry license to have a gun in your car in the state of Florida.
That's the first thing. He didn't even need a concealed carry license, but he had one. He's sitting outside the restaurant. I believe it was a Red Lobster. And somebody called him in as suspicious. Police show up. He's actually a college student down there. Police show up. roused him out of the car, pat him down. What are you doing here? I'm waiting to meet a friend of mine. I'm picking him up. He works in the restaurant. The friend actually comes out and confirms, yeah, he's waiting on me. He's my ride. And they said, but you got a gun in the car. Yes, and I have a concealed carry permit too. Tough. We're arresting you for carrying a concealed firearm without a license. He's got a license. Oh, it's an affirmative defense. Sorry. They arrested him. He went to jail and spent the night in jail for having a license and a concealed firearm, being completely within the law. And yes, the state attorney decided not to press charges, but guess what? This kid's now got a felony arrest record. Good luck with your background checks on your new job after you get your degree with that. And what's he done? He was waiting to give his buddy a ride.
See, that's bullshit. Like, how can you? How is that justified? I mean, it just to me, it just.
And in most states, you can apply to have that arrest expunged. It's going to cost you. Eric, how much do you charge for having an expungement done?
$1,000 generally.
Okay, so and Eric's cheap. So $1,000 at least for a lawyer to get it expunged from your record. It's going to take you, Eric. How long is it going to take to get an expungement?
6 months.
Okay, so 6 months that you can't get a job.
Now hold on, Sean. That's for an expungement, because an expungement means you got your charges dismissed right off the bat, and the state can't screw with you on it.
Right, and we passed a law 2 years ago to improve the method there. Before 2 years ago, when we passed a law, that it was even longer and harder to get an expungement, and you could only do it once in your entire lifetime.
See, that's crazy. Like unless in Canada, unless you've actually had a court order because of violence, being convicted of violent crimes that says you can't get a gun, after 5 years after you've done something that got you some kind of felony charge, and usually non-violent, but you know what I mean. 5 years after that, you can apply and get your gun permit, and like I say, you can order a gun and get it in the mail. Handgun, rifle, doesn't matter if you've got the permit. So I just, I'm boggled by how we think of America as being the land of freedom for gun rights, yet at the same time it doesn't seem to be in so many ways.
I will tell you,
one mistake.
It's a little off topic, and I don't want to take the discussion there, but I will tell you that most of the bad things that happen to gun owners in the United States are a direct result of the war on drugs and restrictions that have been placed on enhancements and problems for firearms because of their relation to the illicit drug trade.
Yeah.
You can believe whatever you want to about the war on drugs, whether it's a good idea, bad idea, but I can definitively say the exceptions that have been created in the law for drug issues have very much carried over into the firearms realm, especially primarily for the reason that we want to be able to make sure that we catch people who are dealing in drugs and who have weapons and give them an enhancement. And so we've kind of tied the two together, and it's the way the laws were written have brought in gun issues as well.
All right, so note to all gun owners: stop drug dealers from using guns. We'll have a much better time of it.
Yeah, no shit, eh?
I don't even want to get over
it. Was that easy, right? Because there's people who are getting popped for. I've heard of people who got caught with pot 3 times, and they can no longer ever own a gun, and for what? For smoking some weed?
Hey, a lot of places in the U.S. you get caught once, you can never own a gun again.
Yeah.
I don't care if you just have paraphernalia.
Yeah, and yet
I know someone who I used to work with. He had what they called roach clips in his car. There was no residue or anything on them. He was an electronics technician. He had alligator clips for doing electronics work. And the police tried to have him prosecuted for having drug paraphernalia because he had electronics gear in his car.
Yep. Oh, I've heard of that happening to people too. I mean,
That sounds more like a gross abuse of power, and that they're trying to fill a quota.
Nope.
It is not uncommon. It is not unusual. It happens all the time. And
Police officer with a vendetta.
the more legal consulting and work that I do, the more I see this stuff, and it shocks me sometimes to see what people are arrested for.
Mm. But, you know, like, to get back to the Second Amendment thing, I think it's just atrocious that after, you know, if you've been a good citizen, had a job, never committed another crime, 5 years later, and just I'm just saying because that's what my country does is 5 years, why shouldn't you be able to then get a firearm again? I mean, if you've proven yourself that you're being a good citizen, I mean, it seems like this horrible thing that you make one mistake when you're a kid and you can never own a firearm again.
Well, and there is, we were just informed of this recently, a case that's pending that seeks to undo this permanent ban. Eric, I sent you the email on that earlier today, I
Yeah, I
believe.
saw it. I haven't read it yet.
It's an interesting case because it says that, look, I mean, the statistics all tell us that someone who has been clean for 5 years, who has not committed any crime, has a very low risk of committing another crime, and therefore should not be precluded from the right to bear arms. And I think it's an interesting argument. I mean, look, I'm not going to try and apply it to a rapist or a murderer,
Right.
but to
yeah,
someone who
violent
bounced to check, to white-collar crime, to nonviolent crime, absolutely, you should have your rights, all of your rights restored. If you,
I am for rights restoration. I'm
Well-
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Sean.
My favorite thing to do, though, you really want to blow a liberal's mind when they start telling you how we've had a big issue in the U.S. and in Florida just a few years ago about this idea of virtually automatic restoration of rights after the completion of your sentence or after a certain time period after the completion of your sentence. So the idea was, well, you know, we're taking people's right to vote for the rest of their life, and once they've served their debt to society, what we really need to do is give them a process that's very simple, quick paperwork drill.
well, some states are completely automatic.
Some states completely automatic, but we're going to give you your rights back after you've completed your sentence or after a certain time period after you've completed your sentence. Sounds like a really good idea. But in every case I'm aware of in the United States, and there might be a couple of exceptions, you get all of your rights back except your gun rights. So there have been a couple of occasions where the idea has come up. You know what? We agree with you, liberals that want to give everybody their rights back. We're going to go ahead and give them their gun rights back while we're at it. Oh, hell no. Don't even talk about that. We are not discussing giving gun rights back.
Yeah, you can have back all of your rights except for that one we don't like.
If I don't trust you with a gun, I damn sure don't trust you with a ballot box.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my point.
And you know, then we can get into the whole, like, your age limitations and stuff.
I don't want to get into that.
Let's go. Come on.
No, not tonight. But yeah, I want to mention.
So responsible tonight.
I am originally from Arizona, and there is still a law on the books. They haven't repealed the law. They probably have amended it at some point. But, you know, if you were arrested and you were in prison, you know, when you get released, you were supposed to get your horse back, your handgun, your gun, and the state is all supposed to give you one canteen full of water, just because, you know, that was a law, I guess, was written back in 1800s.
Hey, if that's
they
still
haven't
on the
gotten rid
books,
of it.
Eric, would you not like to practice in Arizona and say, where's my horse, where's my gun, and where's my canteen of water?
Well, that was only if you actually owned it when you got caught, though, right? But
Yeah,
and everybody did, right?
right.
nowadays it would be, I want my car back. I want my,
Right.
I want my phone back.
But it's still a law that is on the books, and they haven't repealed it. They probably have amended it somewhere, but it's still a valid law.
Oh yeah, and it should be. I mean, damn it, I would want my horse back.
But that goes into restoration of rights because
you said that was Arizona, right?
Yes, it is.
Eric, we know some Arizona lawyers. Let's talk to them and see if they've ever used that thing.
Hell yeah.
So, but I just wanted to point that out because it's pertaining to the Second Amendment. We're getting ready to wrap it up. I'm not going to do a patch giveaway because I already did one for AK-April during Match Chat. I'm not going to do another one. And if anyone that doesn't know what AK-April is a basically we're celebrating the AK-47 this month. The month of April. We just modified April to say AK-April. We thought it was catchy because we got.
Patches all look like eggs with AKs in them.
Exactly.
And by the way, yesterday Florida Carry gave away its third gun. We're still trying to contact the new owner. Hopefully we don't have to go to the alternate, but we gave away a $1,200 1911. We do this every year, and if you want to be into the next giveaway, join Florida Carry. Go to floridacarry.org.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I'd do that, but you'd never be able to give me the gun, right?
No.
If we can't give you the gun, we give you the cash.
Yeah, I'd rather have a gun, but I am thinking of immigrating, so maybe in a year.
Bob, what you can do?
If for some reason you can't receive the gun, we just transfer the cash.
Hey, Bob, not to give you personally a hard time, we all get the government we deserve, though.
Thanks a lot. Hey, I didn't vote for that son of a.
All right, let's keep it clean. But as I said, I can't do a DPG today because I'm hijacking G-Web's Every Second Matters because he's not here. He's not able to be here because he is at the world's largest gun show in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yep.
So check it out. I don't know the name of it. Do you know the name of it, Bob?
Oh God, no. I do, but I'm old. I don't remember it.
Well, that's no surprise. Anyways,
that big old gun show in Tulsa.
Yeah. I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank my panelist, Bob. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, glad to be here. It was a great one.
I want to
lawyers without being in court.
Even though I gave him a little hard time, and I guess he got angry at me or he went to go get some more booze, I want to thank Just Dano for showing up. I was only kidding with you, Dano, in case you're still listening or whatnot. So just want to put that out there. But I also want to thank Eric. Thanks for following Sean's thing to come and jump in here and tell us about this stuff.
Well, guys, I love doing it. I wish I could do it more, but anytime I enjoy it thoroughly.
Well, we also have, it's gun channels. If you are a gun owner or if you, support the right to own guns, join gun channels. And, we have a lobby chat going on almost every night. So, in case you want to.
It's great fun to have a lawyer in there once in a while.
If you want to jump in and talk to people, just go for it.
Oh, wait until you meet Yankee.
Some people say it's boring as hell.
Wait until you meet Yankee.
Oh, God. All right. Sean, thank you for showing up.
Hey, man, anytime. Glad to be here. I appreciate you having me on. We fight for the right to bear arms, and that's what Every Second Matters is all about, because what you guys do to support the right to bear arms really does matter, and we need every one of you.
Absolutely. I wasn't even expecting you to jump in, Sean. You just surprised me. You ninja'd your way in here.
Yeah, I show up out of nowhere sometimes.
So, thank you for showing up. I'm Night Strike. This was Every Second Matters. Thank you for listening.